Hey guys, Josh Armory here. So I'm going to be doing a review on the Palmetto State AKV. So I actually purchased this a couple months ago, and I've actually put about 1,000 rounds through the gun so far over a couple months. So I'm redoing the video because I have more experience with it and some more insight, and I changed a couple things. So just to start from the beginning, basically it'll come in a Palmetto State cardboard box, which you get pretty much from any Palmetto State upper or lower. It's a very similar logo on their box. In fact, it's got this logo on there. They included a sticker, and then they obviously included like a gun lock for a case, and then also a chamber flag, I think is what they call it. It's just an orange plastic piece that goes in the chamber. And this came with my M1, but it's the same sort of like gun lock. I think it would be straight up for a gun case, because this wouldn't lock up anything but a case. It'll come with one of those, and then, you know, your basic manuals and such. So, for the gun itself, basically, if you don't know, it is a 9mm AK version, I guess you could say. It is modeled more after the Vizhyev Russian submachine gun, which is, I guess, the special forces for like the Spetsnaz and those guys over in Russia for special forces stuff use the Vizhyev is what it's called. This is an American copy, I guess you could say, so it's not one-to-one to the actual Russian military version. So, let's talk about what I use for the gun before I get into details and features. So I have 3 of the Palmetto State 35 round magazines. Unfortunately, I have the black ones. They have the smoked, and they also have the clear. I wish I got the clear ones, but they didn't have the clear ones when I bought this gun and when I bought these mags. Or they were more expensive than the plastic ones. I think that's what it was. Or the black ones. I think that's what it was. These were like 15, and the clear ones were like 18. And then I looked on the website, now they're all about the same price. So, too late for me. It doesn't matter. They're black. I just kind of wanted to see the clear ones to see the ammo. I think that'd be pretty cool. But regardless, they are fantastic magazines. They're about 15 bucks, like I said. And they have steel feed lips on the inside, like the reinforcement. But outside is a plastic mag, polymer, sorry. And it holds 35 rounds. You can use Evo magazines, Scorpion Evo's mags, because they are... this is patterned off those mags. So in other words, you can use the Palmetto State mags in your AKV, or I mean in your Evo. You can also use the Manticore mags in these, or the Evo, like I said, the Evo mags, OEM by CZ will fit this as well. And a short mag would be a fantastic option for, like, if somebody wanted to put this in their vehicle, like as a vehicle gun, especially if you got a folding stock version. Even this, you can put it in. And you can fit this in like a bag pretty easily with 20 round mags because they're pretty short. These 35 round ones are pretty long. I mean, I slapped the mag in there and see how long it is. So if you had a 20 rounder, you'd be able to fit it in like a compartment or something is what I'm trying to point out. So could make a cool car gun for sure. So as far as ammo, I run the Wolf steel case. It's 115 grain. This is about the lightest I'd want to go. I've considered getting like 123 or 124 is like NATO spec. So these are lighter as far as the actual projectile. But 115 grain is pretty common for a lot of pistol caliber carbines like this and pistols. I mean, I run this stuff through my M9 as well. And it shoots through it and shoots actually pretty accurately. This gun actually really surprised me on the accuracy. I guess I just was figuring it just wasn't going to shoot as accurate because it's a 9mm, you know, and I have my M9 9mm pistol, about half the length of the barrel of this, but, you know, 75 yards is where that gun maxes out, I'd say. But because you can shoulder this gun and actually hold it with 2 hands, you're going to be much, much more accurate with something like this over a pistol. But yeah, again, that's the ammo that I use, just ball ammo, FMJ, and I get 1,000 rounds of this for 150 shipped online. So incredibly cheap, and it runs through it great. Again, I have 1,000 rounds roughly through this gun, and every single round has been this ammo. I've shot a whole 1,000 round case out of it, and don't regret it at all. This thing is a blast to shoot. I would recommend this to anybody that's looking for maybe a gun for their kid to learn to shoot on. Some people will go like 22, but if you have like a maybe over 10 years old, a 10-year-old and above should be able to hold this gun up and actually fire it, and it's a 9mm, so there's like almost no recoil to it. So it'd be a nice gun for new shooters to learn how to fire. Maybe not necessarily young, but new shooters. So I'm just going to start from the back and go to the front on this gun. It has the SBA3 brace on it. It is adjustable, so it looks identical to a stock. But in the U.S., this is basically our way of having a makeshift SBR, basically, because it's adjustable and you're allowed to shoulder these now. A lot of people shouldered them before because it's a ridiculous notion that if you shoulder this gun, you're automatically making an SBR. And then if you have it not touching your shoulder like this, or whatever, it's somehow a pistol, and as soon as it touches your shoulder, it's a rifle, and you're breaking the law. That notion is just ridiculous. I don't think the ATF or any of those people would actually prosecute somebody that was like caught doing this on a video. That would be absolutely mind-boggling if that were the case, because that is a waste of resources for something so minuscule. But off on my tangent. It is adjustable, and I think it has 5 or 6 different places, so it is using a standard buffer tube. Moving forward, this is the attachment point for the buffer tube, and it is extremely beefy. The 8K is a beefy gun because in the 7.62 version, it's a big bullet. 7.62 is pretty decent size, so there's a pretty big round up in here, so you want to keep this, like you want good quality trunnions, you want good quality rivets, and all that sort of stuff. There's a big blast going off on the inside when the round goes off. With, a similar design as an AK, you're putting a 9mm inside of here. I mean, I could imagine these are dang near indestructible because there's a lot less pressure in this system because it's only running a 9mm. So, moving forward, we have a top cover that is a hinging style, and it has a rail on the top, and it seems to be pretty solid for optics. People have said, oh, it's a nice and solid rail. I'm not going to put any optic on this. This is, I spend enough money on the gun, and I'm just going to leave it as is, and I already sighted these sights in, and I'm cool with it. I'm happy with what I got on here. But moving along, it has a safety switch, just generic spot on a AK. It does have a little lip on it, so you can go from safe to fire really quickly by just taking your finger off the trigger, basically, pushing down, and then you can fire. So that's really, really cool. It does have 3 different positions, F, A, and S. It's safe, semi, basically. It's just an extra full auto notch, but it doesn't actually shoot full auto. It has a Magpul AK grip. I don't know exactly what they call this. It's just called the Magpul AK grip. It's very comfortable, and I see no need to change it out. Some people are very purist on AKs and like, oh, it has to have real wood, or like they just straight cringe. In fact, I have a friend like that. This gun was designed, I'm pretty sure, in the 2000s. The Vitsias, the actual like military full auto one, was designed in the early 2000s. So when they came out, I'm pretty dang sure they were being, sent off to, be used with plastic furniture. Whether it's probably not Magpul, because Magpul's a U.S. company. But yeah, they had like 74 style grip and handguard as the standard. So polymer parts. It's not like these came out in the 50s, when the AK did, the AK-47, and was originally used with wood parts. This came out, this is a modern enough gun to be nice and fitting with Magpul furniture. Moving forward, the Magpul handguard, this is the AKM, I guess it's just the standard length. Beautiful. I really like it. I hate to say that because Magpul is so generic and everybody has it, but this thing is just so comfortable, and it's got a built-in, almost a hand stop on the front. Like, your hand can rest against it if you slip, I guess. So, I just like the look of it, and it's super comfortable, and it came on it. Some of the receiver parts that I missed, it does have a magazine catch right here, which is ambidextrous. It's where an AK is. Now this does have a functioning bolt hold open. When it runs out of ammo, it will lock, and you just pull it down to release it. Again, I have 1,000 rounds through the gun. I do clean it every time I take it out. Right after I get home, I clean it thoroughly. and that's the best way to treat your firearms is by cleaning all the gunk out. Could it run? Yeah, in fact, the AK Operator Union, Rob Ski, he did 5,000 rounds through one of these with very minimal malfunctions. In fact, like 1 or 2 through the whole 5,000 rounds, I'm pretty sure. Like, it was very little, and after he looked at all the internals, and it looked like it was good to go for 5,000 more. The sights are very rudimentary. I did adjust it. The sight came really high. In fact, I was shooting 3 or 4 inches low and 1 inch to the right. So what I ended up doing is bringing it up and sighting it in for 100 yards. I've pretty much mentioned everything. The flash hider I switched out. This one I bought on eBay for 30 shipped. I forget what brand it was. It was some U.S. company, kind of no name, but it is 9mm, so it's made for that. You have to be very careful because if you were to put like a AR-223 on here, that 9mm would be hitting the inside, and I don't know what would happen, to be honest. Blow it off the end of your gun, probably. The upgrades that I did were the flash hider, and then I also bought the AKT-EL trigger from ALG Defense. This is an amazing trigger. It's the lightning bow. The stock trigger was probably, I think it was marketed as like a 5-pound, which is actually pretty good for an AK trigger stock out of the box. But I wanted something a little bit more flat, and I can't run a stock gun. Just like airsoft, I gotta change something out. Like with my AR, it's a complete custom build. I changed the trigger, and yeah, so it's a complete custom build. This one, kind of the same thing. I wanted to add a couple things. My M1, I can't really do anything to, and I even did kind of mess around with, you know, I put a muzzle brake on my M9, so I just like messing around with things. And you'll see me pull the trigger. It's obviously clear. But see that trigger play? There's a little bit of trigger play there. It's not like it fires as soon as I touch it. So it's not problematic is what I'm trying to say. And if I hold the trigger down and rack it, it resets fine. It doesn't fire. Pull the trigger again, fires. So there's no reset problems with this trigger at all. Before I dive into the internals to show you, I'm going to go over the logistics on Palmetto State's website. So it's got a forged front trunnion and a forged bolt carrier. If you don't know what that is, forged parts are top of the line. Like, these are really good parts. It is a stamped 1mm steel receiver. So stamped receivers seem to be pretty good, especially for a 9mm. Like, again, this is not, there's not any crazy pressure going on in here. Moving on, there's a 10.5 nitrided 4150 steel barrel. And again, this thing actually puts the rounds out there pretty far. 100 rounds, I can hit a steel plate that's like, oh, I don't know, 2 feet by 1 foot or something like that. And I can hit that almost every single time from 100 yards. It's 1 in 10 twist, and I'm pretty sure almost everything's made actually at Palmetto State's warehouse. In fact, the AKV is one of the Palmetto State's like best-selling guns, one of them. So, pop the top cover, it does hinge. Like I said, I clean this out every now and again. It gets a bunch of dirt back in here. Every time I go and shoot, I thoroughly clean it when I get back. We will remove the spring guide. It does use a buffer and then a hard stop, but the buffer itself is like a hard plastic. Some people were saying it's rubber. Maybe it is rubber. It's very durable, though. It's almost like a polymer. But they do make replacements for those if those do ever break. But again, I have 1,000 rounds through this gun, and it looks brand spanking new. Brand spanking new. So in order to get the bullet out, we will cock the rifle or pistol. So to get the bullet out, just pull it back, lift up. This is the bullet. It is direct blowback, so this is just a weight. This ammo, this thing chews through this ammo. This is non-corrosive. Don't let anybody tell you that this is corrosive ammo or it's going to harm your gun. Most firearms nowadays are built to withstand steel case because, you know, older firearms, maybe the extractor claw, the extractor spring, whatever, wasn't built for steel cased ammunition because the brass it's a weaker metal. The steel is a lot stronger. But again, with modern firearms, most of those components are built to withstand steel case ammo because it is popular. Steel case ammo is getting more and more popular. That's all I run through my AR, and that's all I run through this, and it's all I run through my M9. The 30 carbine, I use brass and steel case because they're both about the same price. Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier in the video that I was having trouble with the bolt coming back and it was hitting. I don't know if I mentioned this on the other portion or not. I'll just reiterate this. So I installed the ALG trigger, and after closer examination, I noticed that this little latch here is what gets hit by the bolt, or it actually kind of rides in between the bolt, because this is the disconnector, and then there's the sear, which is actually a different part right here. Okay, so this is, you can see how thin that is. The ALG is about 3 times as thick as this material right here, which means that the bolt, pull the spring out, pull the bolt out, the bottom of the bolt was scraping heavily on the corner of this because of how thick the ALG one is. And I'll try to get this in view. In fact, I'll use a light here. Don't know if you can see the silver on that side right there, that little switch. In fact, you can see it move. Right there, you can see it move. Well, I took a Dremel and actually cornered that off because that was squared. And see how thick it is compared to the stock one? I mean, it is insanely thick, 2 or 3 times as thick. So I just took a bunch of material off, actually not even that much at all. It wasn't even a bunch. I took some material off, and I, right off the bat, noticed by even just sitting here, you can see the bolt is no longer striking that piece. I just wanted to add this at the end and key the shooting. So I got some Wolf 115 grain steel case, just FMJ in here. Chews through this ammo just fine. As you see there. Alright, back out here with the AKV. So, had about 500 rounds put through it so far. We're going to finish about another 300 through just this. So, putting it through its paces. It seems to fire fine and shoot really accurately. And, I mean, we're not too far distance here. But overall performance, very happy with it. But later on, hopefully, we're going to go out to where there's more land. And I should be able to shoot at 100 yards, 150 yards just to see how it fares. Again, we're using steel case ammo. That has not changed. It's so accurate.